my name's Richard. And with me is Oh, come on. We'll try that again. Okay, right. You just say it. And my name's Colin.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Hello, my name's Richard.
And my name's...
Oh, jeez. Right, okay. Hello, my name's Richard.
You've done this too much now, man. Just let's go on with it. I think everyone knows it's me.
Okay.
All right.
Back. By popular demand. It's Mr. Colin. This is We're Not Wizards. And this is episode 10.
Episode 10?
Of
12.
Something like that. Because we're cutting it off after not that long. And tonight's episode is going to be called I'm Getting Hints of Toffee and Summer in Kittens and WAR.
Okay.
Now, don't look at me like that. Now, now we know why it's called that, and you will know why it's called that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, you've got the show notes. So
I know. I hope I know. I definitely. Let's see. It's been a while.
I'm just here for the roller coaster ride of emotion.
Hello, everybody. For people that have not joined us before, the reason that we do this is because there are not enough podcasts about board games.
There aren't. I've looked. Yeah. I can't find any.
I've looked and I can't find any either. So there's no reason for you to look.
No, do not look any further.
There's also not enough podcasts out there that spend considerably longer thinking about the title than the actual content of the show.
We did.
We'd spent an awful lot of time. It was a bit of an old vino analysis. It's almost kind of like around about the bit of viticulture type thing. And that is a link into one of the games that we have got to the table.
What a segue. It's amazing.
I'm glad you like it. Because the last time that we spoke, we were talking about we were either going to play Escape from Colditz Castle.
Yep.
Or we were going to play Viticulture.
Yep.
So we played Viticulture.
We did.
And we are going to talk about Viticulture a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like a kind of... We're going to savour it. We're going to take the cork off. We're going to let it breathe.
Oh, you could let it breathe.
We're going to give it a sniff.
Little... And
then we're going to down the lot because it's delicious.
Okay, so you're not going to spit after then.
Okay. That's definitely going to swallow. Viticulture is a game by Stonemaier Games.
Mm-hmm.
And it is for 1 to 6 players.
Oh, yeah, you were saying it had a solo mode.
Yeah, it had a solo mode as well. So it's got an automata mode, which is quite interesting. But why don't you tell, because you've not been speaking... Well, the audience haven't heard your lovely voice for a while. So why don't you tell the lovely audience what Viticulture is about?
No, it's all right. It's a good game. It's what you would term worker placement game. So yes. You're competing over getting your chappie to the right task because you only have so many actions in a turn, don't you?
Yeah. You start off with it's very beautifully thematic in terms of what it brings to the table. First of all, the artwork it does remind you of being on holiday in kind of France or Italy. You know, there's fields in front of you. You can see pictures of old buildings. The artwork is very, very it's a watercolor based artwork. It's very, very holiday type thing. But the idea is quite simple, that at the beginning you are an owner of a vineyard and you have decided that you want to be the best vineyard owner that there is. And how you do this is you have a set number of workers and you have a set amount of money.
Yep.
And you get buildings as well. And you get some fields.
Yeah.
And then your idea is to basically go through a year.
Yep.
You start off with spring. No, yes, you do.
Yeah. There's spring, which is basically you're setting up the table for the year to come and what cards you'll have for that year.
Yes.
So your 2 visitor cards and
yes, you get you've got to decide what turn order you're going to go.
Oh, yeah.
So
God.
no.
Well, only played it last week.
I know, exactly. I haven't seen Colin in ages. Well, I seen him on Friday.
Yeah,
but yeah, the what you do is you've got to decide. Like any worker placement game, it's really important. The first player usually has a lot of the power and usually decides what they're going to do.
Yeah, because it's worker placement, turn order really does matter. But it's got a nice little system for deciding turn order where you don't just, you're first this round, next round the player to your left will be first. Instead, there's certain rewards you can take for taking a worse turn order placement. So I think the first one would be you get a vineyard, which we'll discuss
which we'll go into
in a bit.
Yeah.
And the second one gives you... I can't remember what the term is for the purple cards.
There's things like visitor cards, so you get the wine order cards.
The wine order card, and then you get the choice of either a summer visitor or a winter visitor.
Yes,
which have slightly different abilities.
Yes, they do.
We'll go into later.
We shall go into everything is going to be. You shall have to wait a couple of years for this
until we explain what.
Because this chat has to mature.
It has an awful lot of things going on, which us sitting explaining the game is going to make it sound really complicated when it's not.
But it's not at all. It's and then you get things like you've got the ability that if you put yours in the third or the fourth space down, you get money, or you get a victory point.
Victory point, yeah, and then it is the creme de la creme,
which is there is a spare worker.
Yeah, an extra worker.
But it's
really important.
But it's a balancing act because you have the extra worker, which is good, but then you've also got the thing that you're last, so you have to wait until everybody else has played. So the idea of the game board itself, it's not huge. It's divided in 2. You've got 2 parts to the game board. You've got your own little game board yourself, which is almost like your little vineyard, and you've got your little you've got your field at the top which are represented by 3 cards. You've got your little grapes that you're down the bottom, which
it's an individual card given out to each player as opposed to being one big board.
Yeah.
And on that, it's got zones for all the different upgrades you need to buy over the course of playing the game.
And then you've got your little cellar as well. Now, the main board, as I said, it wasn't that big, is divided into 2, and you've got basically a summer area, and then you've got a winter area.
Yeah.
And there's little areas of the board, and they each have little circles on them, and they allow you to do certain things. So they allow you to the summer area allows you to plant.
Yeah.
It allows you to build a building. Yeah. It allows you to play a summer visitor card. It allows you to have a tour.
Yeah.
There's a space in the middle that just allows you to collect money. And it's interesting because depending on the number of players, it decides on the availability of those spaces.
Yeah.
So if you got 6 players, this means there's 3 slots available for everybody.
That game must be really cutthroat playing with 6.
If it's just the 2 of you, you've only got 1 space available. But that's not an issue because everybody...
Well, it is an issue, but luckily...
you have a...
Grande worker. Yes.
What does the Grande worker do?
Well, he's allowed to be placed at any workstation, regardless if there's already another meeple there. If someone else if two players have already taken both of the build zones that are available, then you can put your own Grandy in, build a building zone, and you get to build the building. So you're not hamstrung too badly if you're playing a very cutthroat game and everyone's going for the same action.
And it's a decision on whether to not to use your workers at all, because I've already mentioned, I mean, that's one side of the board. I've not talked about the other side of the board, which is winter. And
winter is going.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
That's because it's been delayed.
Yeah. Has it been delayed?
Yeah, it's a big delay, man.
I've not seen Game of Thrones. I've seen an episode and a half of Game of Thrones.
And you're not addicted to it? After an episode and a half?
No.
Oh, you might like Black Sails then. It's a lot better.
It's a lot better, isn't it?
But
it's worthwhile watching anyway. Right. Where can you watch that? It's the We're Not TV podcast.
Totally.
Is it? Cool. Awesome. Train of thought, it's gone. Winter has different stages on it because you've got the ability, like on their side, you've got the ability to play like a winter visitor card.
Yes, yeah.
Or you can recruit another worker, which is really, really important.
Or it's giving you another action for the rest of the game.
Or you can harvest the field, or you can fulfill a wine order, or you can make grapes into wine and on the press. That was the word I was looking for. The press. What's interesting is on each of the spaces, if you're the first person to put your worker in that space, then you get a little bonus. So sometimes you get to play like, if it's normally you get to play like a winter visitor card, you get to play 2.
Yep.
Or you get to harvest some grapes, but they get to add 1 extra to the value. And what happens is when you do kind of press a grape, it has a little place on like a numbered tract. And at the end of the year, all the grapes age, so they all move up a space.
Yeah. So that's why it's sometimes a good idea to just bash on and with a very small grape, because you randomly draw these grape cards, so you don't know exactly what grape you're going to have.
Yeah.
So you might, as I had in the game that we played, all my wine orders were for red grapes.
Yeah.
And I just pulled white grapes out of the game, out of the grape cards.
Really?
It was just white grapes all the time. I was like,
I was exactly the opposite.
Well, you see, there you go. You're obviously taking my delicious.
Yeah, I know. I was taking your delicious cards and your delicious grapes. And
but that's a Chardonnay.
I'm sorry, that's the Sauvignon Blanc. I'll have you know. It's the one that tastes slightly of wet dog.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
The game came down to me getting that one card, which the wine was 1 red and 1 white, and I just had to sit and let that build up.
Yes, which we are making it sound very, very complicated, but it's not. It is a case of, how many workers do you have? Well, I have a worker and I'm going to place them there. I draw a card. Oh, it's a planty card.
What I would say the game feels when you sit down and play it, the game feels natural.
Yes.
Each action, you understand why the action is.
Yes.
And why you would need to do that action. And you're not sitting wondering, going, is this a good thing to do or not a good thing to do?
No.
It's all very, right, totally. I need this objective. I'm going to do this.
It's so simplistic in terms of the theme. It's so straightforward. And it's just so...
And for a Euro, the theme doesn't feel bolted on.
No.
You get the feel of, right, okay, this is like the process of winemaking.
And I remember when I spoke to Jamie about it, he said quite simply, he isn't a big wine maker type guy. He saw the theme and he thought, wouldn't it be interesting to make a game? How could we make a game?
I've got a shed full of homebrew equipment. So,
so you know exactly. Have you got the wine press? Why have you not got any shoes on?
Because I'm in my house.
Don't
take my shoes off.
Why is there grape stains all over the carpet? Oh, that's not grape stains.
That's the help.
But there's, again, in all, like many worker placement games, well, there's ways to kind of, you add on additional extras, slightly change how you work, because you've got the ability to buy buildings.
Well, I won the game.
Yes.
Because of that windmill.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Because the windmill...
So, at the very beginning of the game, you get 2 cards, and that gives you your starting resources for the game.
Yes, it's a Mama and a Papa card.
A Mama and a Papa, who are all faces of the Kickstarters of the game, I think you told me.
Yes. Every single Mama and every single Papa is a person that's pledged a certain level to have their portrait added to the game.
Ladies playing board games? I've never seen the like.
So there are... just... I'm going to drink my drink and I'm going to stare at you as we look at the drink.
So each of these cards give you your starting resources, which can be anything from a free upgrade or piece of equipment like I got with a windmill, or more money, or a couple of the visitor cards, which have game-breaking mechanics on them and things like that. So each game is going to be different because you don't know what starting resources you're going to get.
And that kind of starts everybody off maybe on a less than even keel, depending.
It does.
On the other side of it, everybody
it focuses. I found it focused me because I got that starting card and I went, right, okay, I'm going to use this bonus that I've got at the very beginning, and I'm going to focus myself on this is how I'm going to make points to win the game.
Yes, yeah. And the game is quite simple, is that you plant, you press, you plant, you harvest, you press, you produce the wine, and then you fulfill the orders, and then the orders will give you not only victory points, but they also give you recurring income as well.
Yeah.
And income is something that can make you or break you as well, because certain things cost money. All the buildings, the later game buildings, all cost money to make. And some of them are more expensive than others. So you get like you get a middle-sized cellar and you get a huge-sized wine cellar. If you don't have the bigger-sized wine cellar, it stops you from making the bigger value wine. So you've got to pay money to get that. Luckily enough, on your own little board, you've got fields. You've got 3 fields. Now, the fields are cards, and you can sell them. You can sell them for 5 or 6 or 7 coin, which becomes very helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Two of my fields.
Exactly. We had Kev playing with us, and Kev at the beginning.
Kev's not a big board gamer.
Kev is not a big board gamer. He likes his Magic.
He likes computer games.
He likes his cards.
He's not really big into board games.
Not at all.
But he sat down and he had a wee blast. So.
And within about 10-15 minutes, he had totally grasped the concept. Yeah. He knew exactly what he was doing. And it is simple. It is this case of placing a worker, and then there's no kind of, I'm going to take this.
1 worker, 1 action.
That's
off
it.
You go.
On you go. And depending on the number of workers you got, that decides on the number of actions. But interestingly enough, you don't reset your workers between summer and winter. Your workers have to last you the whole year. Yeah. So you can end up in the situation where you really need to plant stuff, but at the same time, on the other end of the production line, you've really got to fulfill some orders. And so sometimes you will not have enough workers because you can recruit workers in winter, but you need to plant, but I need to recruit, but I need to fulfill my orders. Yep. So the analysis paralysis can kind of end up setting in, but on the other side of it, that's when your summer and your winter visitor cards come in, because they'll be the ones that will say, I'll tell you what, everybody is allowed to harvest 2 fields. If the other players harvest 2 fields, you got a victory point, or you got some money, or you got an additional card, or you were able to make an extra wine. And it was that type of thing where...
and it is, the other player really has to consider, do I take that? Do I allow him to get a victory point?
Yes.
Because you win the game at 20 victory points. It's not a massive score to get to.
No. It's not a ring around the roses where you've got the victory points are basically encircling the entire, the entire board.
It's 20, and it had a wee thing for 25, and I was going for a victory of 26, but I mucked up my last turn.
Yes, you wanted to. As you can probably guess, Colin won the game, and what happens when Colin wins the game is it means that he likes it.
I do like the game.
He likes it very, very much.
That's the second time we played it. No, third time we played it.
Exactly, yeah.
There's one at the... well, we didn't finish it the first time we played it, one at the second, and then the last game was the third.
I think you can maybe hear in our voices, I really, really like this game. I kind of... Colin says it. Okay, no, remember the first time you played
your games along, and you said, I've got this game, I've got Colditz, we've not played Colditz, and I was like, yeah, but you've got Viticulture.
Yeah, so we brought up Colditz. We put Colditz to one side and we brought on Viticulture, and it's so accessible. It looks really, really good. In terms of...
what I would say is you can't have someone that's played it play against someone that hasn't, because they'll get walked over. Yeah,
it's very... it's unless that person decides to kind of take it easy. It depends, because it's a kind of it's a nice relaxing game. There's no tension in it, or it's
there's the subtle tension of, I really want to build something, and he's just
I remember that
filled that up.
Kevin, that was brilliant.
But I need to build that.
Look that you gave Kevin when he put it down and went, I'm just going to build a building. Oh, I'm going to build another building. And you're just like, I was going to do that as well. What are you doing? And there was one point where it was like, you had 2 workers there. He had a grande worker there. You had a grande worker there. You were all going to kind of build your buildings. We like the look of it. In terms of being able to pick it up and play, it is not... The rules...
It's not daunting.
It's not. There is a reasonable size rule book, but it's more for people that really want to check things out. But it's really, funnily enough, it's just one of these games that if you go in and step in and play, you pick it up really, really easily, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. There's 2 versions of the game. There's the original version of the game. There's also kind of the special edition of the game.
So there's 3 versions of the game.
Because they released Viticulture, they then released Tuscany, which was an expansion, and then they released kind of almost Viticulture 1.5, which was kind of taking parts of Tuscany and adding it into...
So there's 4 versions of it then.
What else is it? The special edition? Collector's edition?
No. The German side.
Oh, yes! How to confuse somebody that's never played a game of Viticulture the first time is when you give the cards, everybody just sits with the German side, and then when somebody says, so what do we do? What's wrong? Can you not read German? It goes for about 45 quid.
At least now we'll be able to find out how many German listeners we've got.
I know.
How dare you?
How very dare you? His numbers plummet across the board. You can get it about £45 from all good and reasonable price places. We heartily recommend it.
Thoroughly, I really enjoyed it.
We thoroughly enjoyed it. It's kind of like Viticulture is like the kind of the guys that have taken holidays on the field. They're working away after being driven by a dystopian master who maybe has an animal and a gun and wanders around with mechs. Because Viticulture is the holiday-type version of Scythe, which is the other game that we played. Okay, don't look at me like it was a rubbish segment. It's kind of went nowhere. It's like...
All right, I'm not going to look at you then.
Where's it going with that then?
I'm going to look at the wall.
Where's it going with that? We have been talking for ages about Scythe and talking about playing Scythe, and we played Scythe. And
we've played twice.
Twice and a half. I played a little bit more than that.
Good.
because I also jumped into the Automata version as well.
Oh.
Yes, and we played a game where you weren't there because you were doing your Ripigas as well.
Yes.
So you've done that. Scythe, and this is the show. It's sponsored by Stonemaier Games. But we're covering this because we have been promising for ages since the last time, since we had Jamie Stegmaier on the show, which was about good 3 months ago. Yeah, it was. It was about 3 months ago. Scythe is essentially viticulture off its holidays, back at work, being a bit dreary, you know.
It is, well, it's got worker placement elements.
It has.
But it doesn't have that competition over placement.
No.
So they are very, very different games.
Yes. But
you can see elements of viticulture in Scythe, but Scythe is completely different.
Yes. Scythe is all about kind of resource management in the format of trying to build yourself up little machines that grant you ways in order to kind of score not victory points. You're meeting criteria.
It's achievements.
Yeah.
Think of it like a computer game.
Yes.
And it's got like
winning all the battles. Or playing your first
that achievement,
2-player game.
and that gives you
a little shiny star.
It gives you a little shiny star. The thing I didn't comprehend,
yes,
is that they're not really tied into winning the game. It's
they're
weird.
Not. They're not.
They are just a little bit, but not greatly.
No. And
interesting way it scores up, but we're not. We've jumped to the end.
We've jumped to the very, very end instead of going to the very, very beginning. But basically, you pick a faction. Your faction has a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Your leader has an ability to do a certain ability.
Yep.
With an ability. They've all got ability. But they
all have their special thing that makes their faction unique.
Yes. And your idea is you are essentially going out there to get resources, to build mechs, to control areas, to have workers, to again gather more resources, to upgrade the various things that you can do in order to basically, as we said, get an achievement. So you'll have the main board, but let's talk about the little sideboards.
The game is mainly your little sideboard.
Yes.
Where the beginning of the game you have your faction card, and then the sort of important bit for the game is your government type.
Yes.
The government type is split up into 4 columns.
Yes.
And each of these columns are different on each of these government cards.
Yes.
Which all relate to is it 5? It could be 5.
It's 4. And you can add a 5th. You can get a 5th.
Yeah, totally.
You can get a 5th.
And that's the 4 actions you can do in the game. So that would be movement.
Yes.
Gather resources.
Yes.
Upgrade.
Yes. You can also...
And... not merchants. What would you call it? The one where you could exchange your resources.
Yeah, you just trade.
Is it trade?
You can do a trade. Yeah.
Simple words.
I know. It's just I can't talk. I cannot talk tonight. Help! I need some more of this fantastic whatever this is, because it is fantastic.
I think it's that that's done it.
Is it? It's kind of melded our brain. We've been overtaken by this. What kind of all we could describe as potentially this is what just everything should taste like. Pretty much. It is the kind of, how they say everything tastes like chicken. This is what
does not taste like
this
chicken.
is what everything should taste of. Do you know what I mean? If I bit into a rattlesnake or something and it tasted of this, then I would be like, this is fantastic. There would be definitely a few. I'd be picking them up off the street. What's in this fine concoction?
There's a whole load of stuff in there, man. There's a
potions,
little bit of black powder.
Yeah, black pepper.
Black powder?
Black powder.
Oh, God.
Oh, my word.
Cardamom. There's a little bit of cardamom pod in there.
That's
a little bit of cinnamon pod in there.
Oh, this is glorious. We're not going to be putting the recipe online because this is just for us, and it's lovely.
I've got it there.
It's fine. No copyright and everything like that. Scythe. Anyway, but the idea is you get an action, but you get one action, and then the next time you have your turn, you've got to do a different action.
You're not allowed to pick the same action.
Unless you've got a certain faction.
There is one faction whose faction ability allows him to do the same action over and over again.
So the idea is you will basically, it's all about planning. You really, really have to plan ahead because you've got the ability to say, right, on this turn, I need to get myself another worker.
Yep.
But in order to get myself, I need to get a worker. And why am I getting a worker? Because in 3 turns' time, I want to build myself a mech.
Yep.
Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself a worker, which is then going to cost me X amount to do. I'm then going to produce on all the squares that my workers are on.
Yep.
Which will give me the resources. I'm then going to bring in a trade action the next round because I'm going to buy the stuff that I don't necessarily have. And then on my next action after that, I'm going to mech it up.
Yep.
And that's how it works. But this is 4 turns in advance. So the only issue that you've got then is you've potentially got another 3 or 4 players kind of playing before you can play again.
You've got that, which gives you time to think.
Yes. But
the interaction between players in the games we've played hasn't been great.
When the game...
We have been very turtly in the way we play. So there's not been a great deal of confrontation in the games we played.
I think the game that we played where you were ripping as well, I think Scott was on it, Gordon was on it, Kieran was on it.
Oh, you had a big player game, did you?
I think Leo was on it as well. So we had a big contingency. And you start interacting with people an awful lot more quicker, and there's a bit of caution.
You'd be fighting over the quest squares as well. Then, and everything we're doing.
Because so let's talk about the big board, because it is a big board, and it's a big board in capital letters, and it's a big board that can be a bigger board because you can buy an expansion for it.
Well, it's not a big board.
It's a reasonably priced.
It's not Arkham Horror.
No, but I had to bring out. I specifically when you came round and I had to separate out the table.
Yeah.
And I had to put the extra bit in, and I said, "Look, I've separated out the table and I've put in the extra slab of wood."
Richard's got a very small table.
I've got a very, very small table, but it does expand. It does.
That's what she said.
You can put in you can put in an extra 12 inches of table on there, which is good. But it is a big board that can get bigger, and you're fighting for. It's on hexes, so you're fighting for hexes, and there's rivers running through everywhere, and you can't cross on rivers unless you've got a river crossing ability.
Well, each mech that you build unlocks another ability that you have. So you have to consider, what mech am I going to build? One of the mechs gives you a river crossing ability, so you can suddenly jump from section to section over the rivers.
And it depends, because it depends on the sections as well, because it says you can go from forest to basically tundra.
Yeah.
Or you can go from farmland to mountains.
Yeah.
And that can depend on the factions as well.
And then some of the factions also have a sort of teleporting effect that they could do.
Yes.
Which is also quite an interesting thing.
And then on each of the areas, as we kind of mentioned, there's little kind of almost like areas, little kind of bonuses that you can, if you go in, and you can control this space.
You get your leader to that space. Then you get given a card, and that card has up to 3 or 4 different choices. And the choices will be lose support. Support's
it's
one
like
of the things.
You get like an
to
action.
gain 5 money or
you
something
get like an
that.
action where you say, you're passing by a series of children, kind of using sticks to kind of like knock tins down. Do you kind of help them throw the stones and gain popularity? Do you kind of nick the stones and tell them they should be doing something else?
Or do you recruit them into your military because they're obviously good shots?
Exactly. And then based on what you pick, you'll get kind of like different popularity.
Yep.
Based on what you do, you get like an immediate reward, like maybe a monetary reward, or you'll get a longer term reward. You'll maybe get the ability to get some resources, or you'll get like a popularity reward. And up the side of the game board on the left hand side, there's a popularity chart.
Yeah.
And that will, based on actions that you take, your popularity will increase or your popularity will decrease. Once you have mechs on the board, then it gets a little bit more interesting. It might actually get a little bit more fighty as well, because mechs have the ability to basically, anybody wants a lift, jump on board, and you can move anywhere about the board. However, if you jump onto a square that's got your opponent's workers, then your opponent's workers will run off and you lose some popularity.
Yeah.
Or if you go into a space that's maybe got another mech, then a battle will ensue.
Yep.
What do you think of the battling?
The battling is it's reminiscent of another game we played, as it's a blind bidding battling system. You one of the things you can do, one of the actions you can do, gives you combat strength.
Yes.
And when it comes to fighting, you decide how much of your combat strength you're going to use in this fight. So say I've got 15 and you've only got 7.
Yeah.
I might choose to spend 5 of my combat ability.
Yes. And then on
and you might not want to use up all your combat ability, so you might choose, well, I'm going to lose the battle anyway.
Yeah.
So you might maybe only choose like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And then you also have cards, and the cards make it a lot more random, because Richard could be sitting with some really expensive cards. he could have 2 5s.
Yes, I did.
2 5-power cards.
Yeah.
And the card draws that I might have had for combat cards might only be really bad, or I might have no combat cards. So I might have like a 1 or a 2. So that means for me to win the fight, I have to think, how badly does Richard want to win?
Yes.
Does he want to win the fight? In which case he might use all 7 points of his combat ability to fight me off.
Yes.
He then might also have some really good combat cards, in which case I would I'd have to be thinking that I might want to spend 10 of my 15 points to try and defeat you in this one fight. And you might just be bluffing. You might not care about the zone, in which case you might
quite happy to give it up. I go back to my home.
Oh well.
I didn't like it there anyway.
Yeah.
It was rubbish.
So it's everything about it is blind bidding when it comes to the combat, which can be quite interesting.
Yes.
In the games we've played, there was only tentative combat, and no one really wanted to push the mechanic.
No.
So.
It almost became like a side thing. It wasn't the main focus. The main focus for everybody was trying to basically upgrade the individual cards that they had by building buildings again.
Yes, yeah,
the building,
the upgrading,
the windmill comes back. The windmill makes a return.
Yeah,
from Viticulture.
It's the upgrading mechanics quite interesting. You have a whole series of blocks on different parts of your playing field, and when you upgrade them, you get to move them from the top, which makes the top ability better because it's now able to do more things.
Yes.
And you put it on the bottom, which makes the buying mechanic
A lot cheaper.
You know, so like buying your mech might be 4 resources. If you upgrade something, you can move anything that you upgraded, and you can move that onto your build mech function, and then it only costs you 3 resources to build the mech, and you know, snowball effect like that.
It's almost like the entire game is the race to kind of get these upgrades done as quickly as possible. And as you expand and as you get more mechs, as you get more workers, and you can't. The thing is, you can't just sit on having say 2 mechs and 3 workers, because part of the achievement is to unlock all your mechs or have all your workers or to unlock all your buildings. Yeah. So in order for you to get these achievements, you're kind of you have to basically play the game to completion. Totally. So the end game, when you're approaching the end game, you might have gone to the center square, which is a center fact. I think it's
It's called the factory.
The factory card. And what the factory does is it basically adds on another column to your miniature game board, and it has some potentially very slight kind of game-changing abilities, making it easier for you to get.
That card's abilities are a lot more powerful than any of the other actions you can take.
Yes.
So you'll want to be using it. It's got a Naver bonus of one of the mechanics where you upgrade your playing card is you can unlock something. So if someone else, you know, to your left or to your right, plays something in that same column that you've unlocked, you can gain a victory point. You can not a victory point. You can gain money. Yeah. You can gain combat power. You can gain favor with your people.
Yeah.
All depending on, you know, what action the player to each side. Because if I've unlocked column 1, which for me might be my move action, for Richard, that column 1 might not be move action for him. That might be his gather resources. Yeah. In which case he might be using that an awful lot. Yeah. So I unlock column 1, and then I'm getting a gold every single time he uses.
And it adds up, because getting gold, getting money is another thing that just is quite difficult to get. It's quite difficult to get. It's quite difficult to get your hands on.
Easy to spend though.
Too easy to spend. In the games that we played, it never got too kind of crowded, except when there's maybe when it was you, me, and Stu that played.
I think 6-player might be fun, but I think
have the expansions
downtime,
for that. Yeah. Yes.
The amount of downtime you'd have waiting for your turn, because once you, again, just like Viticulture, the game sounds really daunting till you sit down and play it, and then you're like, oh, all right, okay, I get this.
Yeah.
But if you're with people who are suffering AP or they're just not getting the game, you're going to be sitting going, oh, just hurry up.
Yeah,
because I noticed in the game we played with Stuart, the second game we played with Stuart, Stuart was coming cold into the game. Yeah, he hadn't really picked it up the first time we looked at the game.
No.
And so he was doing his turn, and I had already fought out my turn. So it was literally Stu doing his turn, and then wham, right, I'm done.
And then Stu was back going,
oh, you're not giving me any time to think.
What am I meant to do now? Yeah. But that's the way it was. I mean, okay, I like what I played of it, but the funny thing was the end game. The end game
hit us is well, we only got to the end game in one of our 3 games that we played. And I don't know what your other game would be.
Yeah, I played it all the way. I played it all the way through, but
the end game came as a big shock to me, because I hadn't realised what it was till the last turn when I looked at how the end game happens. I went, right, I better trigger this now, or Stu's going to win.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to the popularity chart.
Yeah, something I had ignored all game long.
Well, see, the thing was, I was my move that before you declared and finished the game, because this is the thing. Once you reach your last achievement, the game stops.
Yeah.
There's no continuing until the end of the round.
I thought there was.
No, it just it
Is
finishes.
it as soon as,
as soon as you played, you finished. Nobody else has a chance to... Because I think it's that type of game where when you get to the end, if somebody knows somebody else is about or is finishing, they still have the ability to bump themselves up a couple of points of popularity through some of the skills that they have, which I was going to do. And then you finished the game. And then I was like 1 point away from pumping myself up to the next level of popularity.
So was Stu, though.
And but that was the thing. How you win Scythe isn't about the number of achievements you have or the gold that you have or anything like that.
It is, but the achievements don't seem to give you an awful lot of victory points.
You kind of...
At least in the game we played, it was only like 2 points per victory point. So
it came down to your popularity. Basically, your popularity was like your multiplier for how many victory points you got.
On each of the different...
Based on the number of territories that you had, based on the number of buildings that I think you had as well. There was also a modification card as well, which you drew at the beginning, and you didn't really know how it affected things until you got to the very end, and it was another little modifier that decreased or increased the total number of points that you had.
Yep. And that's a big stack of them, so that's where your replayability is going to come into the game. That and the different government type. Because
for whatever reason, when we played it and finished it for the first time, it sideswiped. It sideswiped the both of us.
Yep.
And I thought I was doing quite well. And I kind of, I don't know. I think you put it quite well, and you said that I said, "Did you enjoy it?" And I went, "Yes, I did." And it's like, you didn't look like you enjoyed it. And then comparing and contrasting what my attitude was like playing Viticulture.
Oh, you were pumped after the Viticulture
compared
game.
to my attitude after finishing off Scythe. I
was it a bit of maybe too much for a brain burner?
I don't know. I think that...
Or was it because you were expecting something else?
I was expecting something else. I really should have. I was expecting based on... I was purely going for as many of the achievements as possible, and I scored some achievements really, really quickly on. And I made sure I had a lot of power. I made sure that I had a lot of resources and everything like that. And then at the end, it's like, I think... It was, if I had that one extra turn, I would have got that extra popularity, and it would have pushed me up into the next level, and I would have easily kind of stormed to an easy victory. I kind of walked...
Stu would have won it if he'd got one more popularity, which would have put him into the top tier.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that kind of sideswiped me a bit, and I kind of walked away from it saying, it's my own fault. I should have looked at the rules more closely at the end.
Yeah.
Let's talk. I mean, the artwork on it is stunning. Anyone that says that the presentation of Scythe,
I really think Scythe is an excellent game for someone that's really into Ameritrash games.
Yeah.
I think it's a great little way of going, okay, so you like these games that are just which are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Scythe's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You like a game with miniatures. Scythe's got miniatures.
Yeah.
But let's wean you off of having to roll dice to decide things. And let's have a little tentative foray into finding out what a Euro game is like. I think it's a great way for weaning someone off of a Ameritrash game and showing them the beauty of elite tier Euro games.
I think the artwork is stunning. I think it slightly missold the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Because if you walk into this game expecting to have
this is a war game,
mech battling, here we go.
This is
bring it on. I've got a bear.
This is steampunk.
This is, heavy steam.
Heavy steam.
Heavy steam. Battling robots and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Heavy steam is battling robots.
If you think it's that, then you might be disappointed with
You
the game.
might be disappointed. You might kind of get halfway through. It depends, because if you're playing like a 4 or 5 player game and there's lots of aggressive combat going on, then you might not bother, but then you might shy away from the combat, because if you lose, you've got a chance of losing pretty much. You've got a chance of losing a lot of stuff if you lose a kind of battle.
Well, that's where it's not like a war game.
No.
Is you lose a battle, you don't lose anything.
No.
It just goes to a place where you don't want it.
Yeah.
It goes back to your home zone. So you'd have to then replace it.
Yeah, but your workers and everything like that.
Only thing, no, you don't lose the worker.
Oh,
the worker goes back to the home base.
Oh, does he? All right. Yeah. Well, I got that wrong there, didn't I?
Yeah.
Not sticking the V's up.
But then losing workers might be, if I could be wrong.
There's popularity though at stake, isn't there? Because you could win a battle.
Opponent loses the popularity if you go after a zone that's got your enemy workers in it, which is going to lose your victory points.
Yeah, you don't realise that until you've actually done it. So it's kind of like check the rules. Always check the rules. In terms of this as a game, I think this is really, really good. And if you get a chance to play it, you should play it. But if it was a choice between this and Viticulture, depending on who I was playing it with, I would potentially go for Viticulture.
Yeah. Because
it's just, I don't know, they're both excellent. Nicer. And this doesn't mean I'm saying Scythe's rubbish. It's not. It's fantastic. Yeah. All I'm saying is that
it's worth the money.
Viticulture
the amount of replayability in both
absolutely.
games.
Viticulture is slightly lighter on the palate. And slightly fresher. And kind of easier to drink over. You feel it's slower paced.
So you're saying it's a nice Chardonnay, whereas,
I am saying
Scythe's a nice rich port.
Scythe's a port of a game, isn't it? Scythe's a port and potentially try to sneak outside for a cigarette type of game. It's a brandy that I'll put here in your chest, my man. So that's where we are with Scythe, and keeping in the lines with kind of drinking. Anything else you've been playing? Quick mentions. Just quick mentions.
You're always playing Pixel Tactics.
Pixel Tactics. Who won Pixel Tactics last time we played?
Not me.
I did. I won.
It's a rubbish game.
It's a fantastic game. I love it.
Never using set 3 again.
It's absolutely the best game ever. I played Clank by Renegade Game Studios, which is like a deck building, going underground, trying to face off against a dragon kind of thing.
Oh.
It's fantastic.
You enjoyed it?
I really, really enjoyed it. And I might come back and visit that another time.
Okay.
And that was thanks to Roy Caldwell, who's Greg's younger brother from Dwarf. And he came in and he demonstrated the game. He sat back. He acted like the DM. And
it's a Kickstarter-y one, isn't it?
Yeah, and we played it and it was fantastic. I've also been playing the Final Fantasy trading card game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trading card game.
It's Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy.
I played it against my son. And the artwork's fantastic, and it's really good, and it's...
Is it graphics off of the computer game? Or
both.
Is it
bit of both, and some actual kind of arty illustrations. It's lovely to look at.
Excellent.
You pretty much have to kind of learn what you're doing and what you're playing. It's interesting to get hold of, but it's one of these games. I think it's got a lot of layers, and you have to learn.
Is it a pay-to-win game? Is it like Magic?
No, it's not actually. There are expansions available.
So is it predetermined cards?
There's a core deck.
There's
a core deck of 50.
Right.
But you have to go out and you can buy expansions which have got different cards. So it is.
Oh, that's pay-to-win then.
Pay-to-win, pretty much. Again, unfortunately. So that is that.
But eBay to win, because you don't want to buy individual packs. Dear God.
No, you
That's
do
a mug's
not. Getting them off the shelf. What we're going to be playing next. Now, normally what we would do is we are going to just put a list out there and then we are going to play one of these games rather than decide we're going to play a game, because it doesn't always work out like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was thinking, I don't know if you've got any games you'd like to play.
I do, and I can't think of a single one just now.
That is
but
absolutely
I was
no
looking
good
again,
whatsoever.
going, I really want to play this game,
that
and
was
it's sitting there doing nothing.
absolutely just no point to that.
I know,
it was glorious,
what is
that all about? Shall
glorious.
Well, I think about it.
I'll procrastinate while you think.
Right, okay. I've got 3.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to play them all. We probably just play one.
Just
talk
the
about
one. Just the one.
Dungeon Lords, by the Dungeon Lords board game,
mm-hmm.
by Czech Games Edition.
Yep.
It's a worker placement. Build up your dungeon, get adventurers attacking you type of thing. Looks very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Got it from a charity shop for £4. In excellent condition. Walked with it under my arms. Should have given the charity shop more because I feel guilty about it, but
a horrible human being.
I know, I am terrible. We did donate a ton of stuff to them beforehand
to
ease
fine.
my conscience.
That's fine.
Epic Resort.
Oh yeah, you were showing that game.
Floodgate Games, which is a game that arrived recently. It is about what basically barbarians and guys like that do in the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And your idea is a worker placement and deck building game. So I thought you might quite like that.
That might be alright for a laugh.
And then last but not least, well, it's hardly least, the Big Daddy Mechs versus Minions. We could potentially get a shot of that. Bring that to the table, which sounds quite good. Which is all good. Moving on. What have you thought about your games yet?
Yes.
What are they? Tell me.
Something are really good games.
Right, okay, something are really good. Well, I'll tell you what to do is we will continue, and then if you want to interject with the aforesaid mentioned games, then that would be awesome. Give them a kick. Now, give them a kick. Normally we go through a couple of Kickstarters which have grabbed our attention because we continue to support the community and talk to a lot of people who have been doing Kickstarters already. I'm just going to refer you to a couple of people that we have spoken to recently that you should maybe check back and have a look at. Mm-hmm. City of Kings, Mr. Frank West, who they are doing quite well. They are on, I think it's 160,000.
An amount of money.
They are on an amount of money.
Which is more than they've asked for, which means they're going to have to deliver.
Which means it's going to have to be funded, which is very, very good. And that's Frank West, City of Kings. He doesn't have a company, he's just known as Frank West, but he is fantastic. Mm-hmm. We've done a couple of episodes with him now.
Excellent.
It's always good to listen to Frank because we always just have a laugh. 164. Pretty nice. 28,500 target.
Wow.
That is just very, very good. The second one, very, very quickly, is a game by Atheris Games called Mutant Crops.
Mm-hmm.
We had Andrew on the show a week or two ago, and the episode came out this week. Ooh. Mutant Crops is a very, very inexpensive worker placement game based around cards for getting crops that are horrible and mutated and harvesting them. And
it's beetroot then.
The game funded today. So it's reached its target. So well Excellent. Done, Andrew. If you go back to the episode before this one, you'll be able to hear Andrew talk about he's done like 2 Kickstarters. He's like 22. Yeah, I don't like him either.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Dear God, I don't even know the chap.
I don't know. He's lovely and he's good fun. And we had a laugh when we had a chat with him. So, and these I'll put quick notes to the links to the notes in the show notes. The last one is it's friend of the show Gary Butterfield, who was on last year. He's releasing a set of what they call power books. And power books are basically when you used to get like Nintendo Power, sometimes you used to get like fictional little stories based around the video game characters and stuff like that. So you'd have little bits of fiction around them. So what Gary's doing is he wrote a book about basically it was based around the kind of the Dark Souls universe last year, and he's got a Kickstarter going at the moment for the second book in the series, which is based around Fallout, and it's called Atomic. And basically, it's just fun. It's a bit of a laugh. It's kind of written from a, hey, this is a fine adventure and stuff like that, with kind of lots cast of colourful characters, good story, very, very funny, a lot of kind of gentle nudges and winks to the actual original kind of Fallout IP as well. Currently, it's funded. It's got about 11 or probably 10 days to go by the time this goes out. There'll be links in the show. I know it's a book. I know it's not a board game, but guys, sometimes it's good to read a book. Just saying. Just saying. As we say with all Kickstarters,
buyer beware.
Buyer beware. We have to say this. You know, always. Colin. I'm not going to say 3D printer.
No. Don't, man, don't.
No, let's just not bring up the pain.
Canadians. They're so polite when they rob you.
Remember, other Canadians are available. So polite until they rob you. Moving on to shout-outs, because we haven't given shout-outs to people in a longish time. Because it's very rude for me to say, thank you, special guest, for coming on. Here are some other people that you don't even know that we want to talk about. So a couple of podcasts that I like the listings of, and I like the listings of, maybe you would like the listings of too. Quite new one, The Salt Report, which is Nikki, Jake, and the mysterious K. Just called K. That's just the letter K. The idea is they just basically spend their podcast is just basically being salty about things in the gaming industry. Just have a good rant and moan and complain about stuff. And sounds fantastically good fun.
Must be cathartic for them.
I think it's almost like a weekly kind of therapy session. And a bloody another thing about Bamco and their advertising for the Dark Souls franchise.
Well, tell me about Monopoly.
I let that slip out. Quest for Magic and Steel. They finished their first season. They're having like what you call an off season, where David, who's a fantastic guy, him and Leisha and Amara are continuing a second mini season of kind of like a Dungeons and Dragons type thing. It's all very, very good fun. You might want to check out the Monster Closet with Paco, Alan, and Lee, who they're all talking about video games. They did a special recently about Mass Effect Andromeda. They've done some
My face
chats.
is tired.
Oh, somebody fix my eyes. Somebody fix my eyes. Don't make them look like...
So realistic, yet we all look dead.
I can't believe you've used the same alien models for all of the aliens. But they're incredibly good fun and definitely worthwhile of a listen. Staying in pod, my podcast brothers from another mother, Peter, Sam, Chris, just fantastic people.
So, they're half brothers then, are they?
Kind of.
Oh.
Kind of. Maybe. But hello to them. And a special mention to the Meted podcast, because they gave us a shout out on their last show that they did, and then they attempted to do kind of I challenged them to do some British accents.
Oh no.
And they came up with some actual comedy gold.
I'm getting flashbacks to I'm walking here.
Yeah, that was I was going to say. It was like listening to listening to a Dick Van Dyke holiday special. Go bleedy blobby governor, I'm listening to some podcasts.
Shine your shoes, governor.
50p, governor. Round the corner, governor. Would you like a cab? Lemonade. So a big shout out to Paul and Jimmy and Glenn. Mm-hmm. And we're not gonna insult them with a Listen to Method. It's a very good show. Do you know what I mean? I'll use Americans sound the same. Anyway, so that's that.
Anyway.
Questions. I put the call out there.
Well, if you like it, you should have put a ring on it.
I put the questions out there, and the questions came back in, and they came firm and fast, and we shall answer them quickly. Sentinaut Plus, also known as Dave, said, with the relatively recent resurgence in the board game popularity, what, if any, has been a standout theme or type of game, do you think? Standout theme? Wine making.
It's so popular.
It's so lovely.
Steampunk.
Yes.
That is saturated. Zombies. That is
yes.
absolutely saturated.
In fact, there's more.
That has got to be the standout theme
if you
of
put
board gaming.
if you put zombie board games out in the street in the apocalypse when there was actual zombies, the zombie board games would outnumber the zombies by about 75-1. Do you know what I mean? Because that, yeah. Or type of game. I think things like people are moving away from dungeon crawlers and they want something which is dungeon crawler but also has additional mechanics to it.
I think, card games for me.
Yeah.
I see awful lot of card-based games.
I've seen Rising Sun was an idea where it's like CMON kind of released Rising Sun on Kickstarter, and it was like, oh great, it's another mini game with dice and fighting people.
Yeah.
But then they says, oh, it's got things of negotiation and stuff like that, and people were talking it was quite similar to Rex and stuff. You can't sniff your nose at that. That's what I was told. It must be true. As always, Mr. Nick Jones, Lane It 360 says, yes. He says, have you played Dead of Winter The Long Night yet? No, we haven't.
We've not played Long Night, no.
We haven't. Have you heard of the Warring Colonies expansion yet? Yes, I have. That is the ability where you can take basically the Long Night and the Dead of Winter, and you'll be able to have
smash them together
and be able to fight each other. So it sounds like it's going to be fantastic, and we should be keeping an eye out on it. Thank you very much for your questions. Oh, Nick's come back again. Do you have any good plans for Tabletop Day?
We do. The club is putting on a tabletop day.
The club is putting on a tabletop day, and there will be fun, and there will be games, and there will also be former guests of the show will be there.
Other.
Sarah Kennington from One Free Elephant will be there. Kevin Young from Inspiring Games will be there. Justin, who did Elementus, Elements, he'll be there. And also Mark from Wreck and Ruin, who isn't a guest yet. But he almost is. And he, ... And Mark will be coming on to talk. Mark, who's just... Thank you. Well, shout out to Mark anyway, because he's one of the big supporters of the show. He's always tweeting us and everything like that. So they are all going to be appearing at Tabletop Game at Dwarf. So there's Photoshop opportunities, photo opportunities.
God.
I know.
Means I can't go unless the feds find out who I am.
So that's the kind of the plan. He also asks, any good deck building game recommendations? Clank, pretty much.
Pixel Tactics.
More
Pixel Tactics. All the Pixel Tactics.
Get all the Pixel Tactics, because it's absolutely fantastic. Clank again. I just really like that game.
You really enjoyed that?
I really enjoyed that game. I was trying to think of any deck building.
Does it have pixelated art though?
It doesn't. It has kind of cartoony art, but it's still a very, very good game. Stuart Cullen, who is the games editor for the Scottish Sun, has written in and says, Dear Deirdre, Beasts of Battle... He didn't say that. Beastly Balance is a step forward, blending analog and digital gaming, or is it a one-trick pony? Where else could you see the tech used? Beast of Balance is basically you get components, plastic components, and I think they've got RFID tags in them. And you put them maybe on top of an iPad or to the side of an iPad.
Like Nintendo's
Mii's, yeah,
and
Skylanders, Lego Dimensions. You kind of well, the idea is you stack the game up, and basically you get a representation on the screen, so it's kind of like blending the two together.
Two big games I've seen that do that would be XCOM.
Yes.
Which it's replacing all the sort of.
There you go. I'm just showing Colin a picture. I'm showing everybody a picture as well. Don't ask me. Don't ask me to sign up. I don't want to get away. Oh, it's one of those. Sign up for our email address. I don't want to sign up. We just want to show. So there you go. So it's kind of like a balancing stuff.
Oh, that looks amazing. I'm going to have to check that out. I love dexterity games. It's one of my passions.
So you get that, and then you get to plug it into a pewter at the same time. But it's very, very looks
I have a
very
little cheeky grin on my face.
Base for the Kinder. So that looks.
So like the tablet's obviously like taking away the sort of like spin a dial to find out what you're meant to place next. So you've got to place a colour on.
Let's see what it's costing.
69, dude.
£69. Fantastic. So, getting back to Stuart's
there's another game I've seen that uses your mobile phone.
Is it Mansions of Madness new one? Is it that?
No. This is I've only seen it advertised on the Dice Tower of all places, and your mobile phone you place onto the table. And you take a picture of each of the things. You have an app you download to your phone. I'm not describing it all that well. And you take a picture of what square you're putting your boat, because your mobile phone's your boat.
Oh,
and you have a little. What? You have your pirate boat is on. And so and then you move 4 squares, and then you take a picture of where it is, and that uploads to the app where your boat is now. And then there's like random things, like sea monsters and things, which are all generated by the app, and it's networked with the other people playing the game, so that you can have like 4 or 5 people all with your mobile phones on the deck. It's quite really... It looked quite interesting, but I'm not sure. I think, to me, it's a gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it gets.
To me, it's where you see where people have completely digitized the board game.
Yeah, tabletop simulator and stuff like that.
But I really enjoy having a
cardboard.
Yeah,
people like something in their hand. I think that this is the thing. It's like because.
But then that might just be our generation. We're the old bastions.
Yeah, but then my son.
Growing so old.
Again, where are my eyes gone? Again, this is rubbish. But again, on the same side of it, my son loves his cardboard.
Yeah. Is that because he's living in a world where he only sees things on a screen, and then he gets to actually hold it?
Yeah, I think so. I think that could be it. I think it's a balance. It depends if it's gimmickly enough. Mansions of Madness, I think, is a companion app that will it basically almost DMs the game for you, which is fantastic. I think Tracy from Chaos Cards spoke about that. Yeah. She says it was fantastic to kind of really added an awful lot to the game.
One, I can't believe we forgot about this, and it's definitely needed for the game.
What?
7 Wonders, to actually work out what on earth your score is.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it doesn't need a companion app. It needs a calculator. Oh my goodness. And speaking of the devil, Mr. Mark from Dream Big Games, who is Reckon Rootin', who we're going to be meeting, says, "You've talked to many awesome people." Yes, well, it's unfortunate Colin doesn't come on more. Who would be your fanboy guest? he said that he'd love to meet Eric Lang. I don't know is the answer to the question, because I don't know, because it had such a good year with all the people on that we had on so far, and what happens is you get somebody on, they'll go, oh, they're fantastic, and then you get somebody else on, like say Chris Clue, and you'll have somebody you've never met before, and you'll have a total laugh with.
This is how you can tell Richard's a father, because he has no favourites.
I love all my children equally, but I'd like to get somebody who isn't in the board game space talking about board games. I've kind of been talking to a couple of people who...
You mean normies? You want to talk to normies about board games?
Maybe I want to talk to normies, but there's been a couple of people that I've been talking to that are in the kind of the content creation type space, who might, who we're talking about maybe coming on. But, it's kind of where do you start kind of thing.
But who is the, someone we haven't got on yet that you really, really want to speak to?
Really want to speak to?
Really.
Oh my goodness. I couldn't even think. Because I'd say, I'd like Brad Talton on again. But that might be Saturday. Do you know what? I really, really can't think. There's obviously the really, really kind of big names. Do you know what? Get Tom Vassell on. Dice Tower.
Yeah, why not?
Or Isaac Childress. Let's get him on, and let's talk about Forge War for an hour and completely ignore Gloomhaven. Eric Lang, I guess. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who else? Matt Leacock.
And how could these famous people get in touch with us?
I know. Just
that's a segue. Booyakasha.
I know, exactly. Well, you have to add yourself to the list, first of all. And then we have to sort out times in the calendar, basically. But thank you for all the questions. Quick D&D update.
Oh yeah, you were going to play D&D.
I've been playing D&D. I've done like 3 sessions. Quick D&D update. We've now got North out the village. Smacked around a couple of goblins. Went east.
Why?
Because they were just looking at us funny, and because it's fun. And I'm playing an orc, and basically we ended up clearing a room, and that's where we finished. We play about an hour or 2 hours at a time. Yep. We don't have time for a big session, so it's kind of like, you're going to the pub. Game over.
Well, it's more.
It's my fault.
What did we do last week? Okay, what do you want to do now? We'll discuss it next week.
No,
okay.
It's my no, but you've got to time it perfectly. And it's David Steele from the Steel Empire. He's DMing it, and he's fantastic.
Yep.
So big props to him.
Are you enjoying it? Are you enjoying role playing?
I'm actually having a lot of fun because.
Do you see why we do it at the club so much?
Not at all. But we've got I think it's Andy from Lapsed Gamer Radio. Nick Jones. Yeah, Paddy. Yeah. Nick Jones is on it as well. So he just sits there constantly and just goes, yes. It's like, are we going to the cave, Nick? Yes. That's all he says. Patrick Smith from Twin Humanity, he does it. Kat, she's involved as well.
There's a big group of you there.
There's about 5. I think there's 5 of us. So it's
excellent.
It's a really good, and we're all kind of playing all people. There is a wizard on it. I've punched him already. It's fine. But speaking of guests, because it is, because over the next couple of weeks is like, just to round up who we do have coming on, we are going to have Mark from Wreck and Ruin. He's going to be coming on to talk about his game called Wreck and Ruin, which is kind of like a Mad Max, mashing cars together type theme, which sounds absolutely fantastic. Lewis Shaw from Brain Crack Games, who has a new game coming to Kickstarter called Farlight, so he's coming on to talk about it.
Sci-fi?
I think it potentially could be, but it's kind of like an open rule set he's claiming that could be quite interesting. Yeah, so we're going to talk to him about it. Mr. Brad Talton Jr. is coming back on the show, because last time he went away without any fighting talk. And this time he's coming back with Fight and Talk. And maybe talk about Exceed, but he's also got Imperial, which is a steampunk train game which we want to talk to him about.
One thing, going back to that earlier question, themes that people love. Trains. People at the club are nuts for train games.
People don't do enough things about trains. There should be more trains. Brian Wade is coming back on because I've played Magic.
You've now played it.
I have played Magic. There's so much things I've been up to.
You've
it's
tapped
crazy.
your land.
I've tapped my land. I've used some haste. You know what I mean? And I've been playing the Calumet edition, which has got the little vehicles which you can jump on and pilot, which is good fun. So me and Mr. Brian Wade are going to be chatting about Magic.
Excellent. And you'll actually know what magic is now.
And I'll actually know what he's talking about, and I'll be able to say magic isn't the worst thing in the universe. There's other things that are the worst things in the universe, but magic's pretty close. Magic's still rubbish. It's just...
No, Berserk's genuinely rubbish. I hate that game.
Oh, there you go. And finally, going into the future, we are going to have the creators of Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Wow.
Greater Than Games are going to be coming on. Christopher
Excellent.
from Greater Than Games.
I'd love Sentinels. That is one great game.
So Christopher from Greater Than Games is going to be coming on and having a chat.
Excellent.
And they asked to come on. But yeah, using your segue, how did they ask to come on? Well, they emailed us. And they emailed us at magic@wearenotwizards.com. I've no idea why. I didn't even need to send them money or nothing. We're in negative money on the Patreon.
Where is your firstborn child?
I can't even talk about it because this is getting recorded and the police could be involved. But if you want to get in contact with us, you can email us on magic@wearenotwizards.com. You can come onto the site, which is wearenotwizards.com or...
.uk.
That's the one. You can find us on Twitter, which is @wearenotwizards. You can find us on Instagram, which is
.co.uk.
We're Not Wizards.
Oh yes, yeah.
The first 9 or so episodes that me and Colin have done are now all uploaded to YouTube.
Nope.
There's another pile of older guest episodes which are also up on YouTube as well. So it's split down for easy access. There's the standard ones, there's the friends of the show ones, there's the work in progress ones. If you haven't already, you don't have to listen, but drop us a sub on YouTube because somehow that's meant to be magical and important. The other thing that you can do is if you have liked what you've heard tonight, you can jump over to iTunes and you can drop us a review. Now, remember, the golden rule is...
never does that.
We've actually got a few. We're into double figures. I'm just saying, we are into double figures. But, don't give us a 10, because that makes us big-headed. But don't give us a 1, because that makes us cry. But give us a 5, because that's in between. That's kind of average. And we are decidedly average. Oh dear.
There's one thing my parents said to me is, Colin, just be average.
Just be average. Don't succeed.
Don't really try. Just do enough.
Don't exceed at anything because you'll just do it wrong. Now get up to your room and do everything average. It sounds like a good place to leave it. Unless there's anything else you want to add. I think we've pretty much covered everything.
I still can't remember what game I wanted to play.
You still can't remember what game
it's sitting upstairs. It's directly there.
Really? Do you know what I remember? Do you know what I'm absolutely ashamed at is the fact that when I was talking about the staying in guys, that I spoke about Peter and I spoke about Sam and I spoke about Chris, and I think I left Dan off. So sorry, Dan.
Oh well.
I apologise profusely. But anyway, so there we go. So, all that's left to say is, apart from hitting the table and shaking the crockery everywhere, is remember that we are many things, but...
we're not tortoises.
We are many things, but...
We're not wizards.
We're definitely not wizards. There we go. We're definitely... Tortoises could be cool.
Could I?
Well, I could settle for that.
I get to sleep for 6 months. That would be good.
Yeah, and you get to, like, you know, just go about doing everything average and slowly.
No one really bothers you unless there's a dog about.
No, you could just go into your shell. Sounds cool. But until next time, stay safe, roll sixes, and thanks for listening. Bye for now. Say bye-bye, Colin.
Bye.